It's like 9 out of 10 people showed up for the interviews because they go, wow, that person cared about me. That person took an interest in what I care about. And if there's one silver bullet in recruiting and keeping great people, it's care about the things they care about. You do that, the people stuff becomes so much easier. And I know it's hard to do it when you're an owner and you're caring about 27 different things. And
what you don't know is costing you commas and zeros. Welcome to the Owner's Profit Playbook. I'm Pat Mancuso. Most entrepreneurs think their biggest challenge is growing revenue, but the real problem is the profit leaks hiding inside their business. On this show, we break down the strategies, structures, and financial blind spots that separate struggling operators from truly profitable businesses. Because building a business is one thing, but building a business that creates wealth, that's the real playbook.
Welcome to the Owner's Profit Playbook. My name is Pat Mancuso. Most business owners think their biggest problem is finding good people. Wrong. Their biggest problem is that they've turned hiring into a prayer. Post a job, hope someone shows up, repeat the cycle. Meanwhile, the revolving door keeps spinning and the cost of that spin is quietly eating into their margins, their time, and their sanity. Today's guest built an entire system to slam that door shut. And if you've ever said, I just can't find good help, this episode is going to cost you commas and zeros if you miss it. So before we bring on our guest today, a quick word from our sponsor. If you're a business owner providing health benefits to your team, there's a good chance you're overpaying by 30 to 40% and leaving real money on the table every single month. Mancuso Consulting Group helps business owners uncover hidden savings in their health insurance costs without cutting benefits or changing doctors. In less than a minute, you can provide a few simple data points and receive an estimated cost savings in minutes. Find out what you're overpaying by visiting www.reduceemployerpremiums.com. That's www.reduceemployerpremiums.com. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am excited today to introduce our guest to you. And I'm going to share a little bit of background here, and then we're going to ask Ryan to do so. So Ryan grew up watching his father, an owner-operator, miss bedtimes and weekends because he couldn't find the right people to run his business. Boy, does that sound familiar to me. That experience didn't just shape him, it drove him to build something that fixes that. Ryan Englin is the founder and CEO of Core Matters, best-selling author of Hire Better People Fast, host of the Titans and Trades podcast, and creator of the Core Fit hiring system, a proven process helping blue-collar and service businesses attract, hire, keep rock stars. Ryan has been on a mission to give business owners their time back by building teams that actually work. Ryan, welcome to the Owner's Profit Playbook.
oh, thank you for having me.
So Ryan, you grew up, and we're going to talk about a lot today because right before we jumped on, you shared something with me that you're working on right now, so I'm sure we'll get to that. But you grew up in a blue-collar household watching your dad grind through staffing problems. When did that personal story become your professional mission?
Yeah. When I was younger, I just thought that was part of being an entrepreneur. That was just table stakes. You start your own business, you grind it out, you work 16-hour days, 7 days a week, no vacations. At the time, my dad had one of those brick phones, if you remember those. He took a wheelbarrow for it. And he was excited to have it because he's like, now they can call me anytime they need. And I'm just thinking, this is nuts.
Yeah.
And so I used to spend a lot of time with him down at the shop. We used to spend a lot of time together. I learned about the business. I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to do what my dad's doing. So I went the corporate route, got my degree, thought corporate would be better. I was wrong. And so,
yeah, exactly.
So after 10 years in corporate, I said, I'm going to go start my own business to help people like my dad. And originally I thought my dad's problem wasn't people. I didn't think it was people. I thought it was a marketing revenue issue. If he just had more money, more customers coming in, he'd be able to invest more money in his business and it'd fix all his problems. So a couple of years in, I'm helping these companies with marketing and retaining customers and getting more customers. And then I lost a bunch of them. And they said, Ryan, we solved the customer problem. I don't have people to do the work. And my time in corporate made me realize that, well, that's just a marketing issue. Like if you can't recruit people, you have a marketing problem. So I thought, I know marketing. This is a marketing problem. Let me solve it. I was like, I'll get you people, no worries. And a couple weeks later, I had a client coming back. They're like, I filled 4 trucks like in 3 weeks. Well, turn the leads back on. And I was like, that is pretty cool. So I thought I'd save my business. And then over a couple of years, I kept seeing this pattern repeat over and over and over again. And I really like solving the people side of things. So it wasn't until about 10, 11 years ago where I actually said, I want to help people like my dad with the people problems, which is what his problem was. He never had a team of people he could trust to do the work when he wasn't around, which is why he always had to be on the phone.
So do you think, I mean, you don't necessarily know my background, but that my background, there's a lot of what you're talking about, certainly in the time that I spent building franchises at Keller Williams, and we had a proprietary system for hiring. And is it they don't have the system, or do they sometimes struggle with just the fact they can't give up control?
Well, those are 2 of the reasons.
Yeah.
They don't want to let go. They don't want to let other people make the decisions. They don't have the system. Or the third one, and this is the one we solve a lot, no one ever taught them better.
Right.
Right? Like, no, they had no idea it's even possible. Like, there's this belief like I had, oh, being an entrepreneur is 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's just the way it is. No one ever taught them there's another way. But I think the big solution for this is the systems. Because what I've seen in the 10 years of doing this is when I have a system that I can trust, it's a lot easier to let go and trust the people.
So they have a system. What do you think? I mean, obviously you got a great system, the core fit hiring system. What did you see business owners then struggle with as part of implementing that?
So if we go back to the 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, their number one struggle is time.
Yeah.
And the reason they don't have the time is because they feel like if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. And that's just their belief. I built this. The other belief is it's their baby, right? No one's ever going to be good enough to take care of the baby. So all those limiting beliefs are the biggest struggles they have. So we put a system in place and we do it in pieces, little bits at a time. And I found over the last decade that there are some things that if we put in first, they get to practice letting go on the safer things. And then they go, ooh, that felt pretty good. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a client say, I left here Friday night. I didn't even check email until Monday morning. I was like, whoa.
That's awesome.
Good for you. It took them 1.5 years to get there, but they did it.
Yeah.
So we put these little pieces in place and and kind of breadcrumb them. Yeah, right? Like the whole attracting a squirrel, you a little bit at a time. And that seems to work. And then as the system gets more and more built and they see it solve more and more of the problems, they start letting go of the bigger things.
Makes sense. So you said something earlier, and it was actually in my notes, and you hit on it. And so I love this. You said recruiting is a marketing activity, right? And so recruiting is really like sales. And, for years, I was involved in teaching real estate agents how to get more productive. And, I would always have some fun with them. And I would say, well, if you're not going to lead generate, whether it's for, leads or potential talent, eventually you're going to be out of a job. And then, oh, by the way, when you're out of your real estate job, what do you think you're going to need to do to find a real job? And of course, that's what you're talking about is the recruiting is really a marketing activity. So talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. I had this realization. So I grew up fishing. I'll tell you a quick little story. I grew up fishing. And the one thing I realized when I went fishing is the way people get good at fishing is by practicing. Right? It's just the way it is. Yeah. And there is a system to fishing that gets a fish in the boat. You can't go look for the fish. You have to attract the fish. It's the same thing with people. You have to attract it because here's the reality. The person that's on Indeed looking for a job right now,
right?
They probably should not have a job. Right? Most of those people, we don't want working for us.
Yeah.
And people will tell me that and the data shows this too, about 1% of the candidates that you get from Indeed are hireable. 1%.
Wow.
And that's just the job boards in general. However, about 70% of your employee referrals are hireable.
There you go.
Here's the thing. If my employees aren't equipped to attract their friends and family to my business, it gets really hard to ask them, hey, can you refer somebody?
Yeah.
because we have this belief that we have to go hunt down people. We have to go find them. And I go, if you just think about it like fishing, you can't hunt a fish. You got to attract the fish.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is by being in the right place at the right time with the right bait and the right gear. And you've got a system.
Just a funny side. So fishing, I live in Minnesota and, we've got 10,000 lakes and fishing has never been my deal. And you know what? I realized why, because I wanted to just go get them because I have no patience. And yet it's an attraction thing. And yet just still doesn't work for me. So when you talk about, or let's talk about the cost of hiring. I say that we have this mantra, if you may, in my business, that what business owners don't know is costing them commas and zeros. And when it comes to this hiring process that you have, what's the biggest discovery that business owners have when you start having this conversation with them? Like, what's their big aha moment?
That recruiting the wrong person costs you way more money than you could possibly imagine. And they all think, oh, well, I only spent $300 on Indeed and I hired somebody.
Right.
I fired them 6 weeks later. And so, yeah, I'm out the income, but they did a little bit of work. But what you don't realize is that by hiring the wrong person over that 6 weeks, your managers and your supervisors were less productive.
Yeah.
They were talking to customers or doing customer work that now you've got customers that are upset and you got a bad review here or there. Something bubbled up to the surface to make you go, they're not the right fit. I have to fire them. And that stuff is costing you money. We had one contractor, they were a commercial HVAC contractor. They did a lot of work with restaurants. And they estimated that the wrong hire over 90 days cost them over 60 grand.
That actually kind of seems low based upon my experience, but 60 grand's a lot of money in 90 days. I mean, over a year, that's $240,000.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of money. But see, people don't believe it because this is the thing. Like, they just don't believe that it costs that much.
Right.
But if you look at all of the things that you don't write a check for, and that's the piece that's missing. People think that a bad hire is just the cost of what I wrote the check for. But what about the morale issues? Now, all of a sudden, your whole team is less productive because they didn't like the person you hired. Or what about that person that quit because they didn't want to pick up the slack that was actually a decent employee? Like, all of those things cost you. And it adds up really, really fast.
So I know based upon my experience, I have some thoughts around this, but I want to ask these questions because I want to pull them out of you in your world, being the expert on this. Is that why do people make bad hires? And let's not talk about because they don't have a system, because they do have some type of system. But what do you think are the top 2 or 3 reasons why they have that blind spot around the wrong hires?
They're desperate. So they come to the interview with rose-colored glasses.
Yep. Okay.
And no one ever taught them how to actually interview and qualify someone.
Which one do you think is which one do you think happens more often?
In the trades, in the blue collar work, it's they're desperate. Sure. Yeah. 100% desperate.
Exactly.
They're just desperate, and the guy shows up on time, and they're like, oh, you passed the test. He's like, there's a test? Yeah, show up on time. Like, that's the test, because we need that tractor working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, again, I love this conversation. Why do they get desperate? What happens? Again, we know, and we're going to talk about the system, but why do they get desperate? Why does it get to that point where they get desperate?
You made a comment earlier about when we're talking about recruiting as marketing, it's kind of the sales process. I believe that the interview is the sales process. I believe it's you're qualifying, they're qualifying, you're making a decision on, is this contract going to work? Do we have set expectations? All the stuff that you do in sales. And sales consulting and sales coaching is billion-dollar business around the world, right? Like, it's huge because people don't know how to do this stuff. Right. And there's something in sales that I learned real early on where marketing is, you always have to be closing. Like, there's that phrase, you always have to be closing, because what most entrepreneurs do is they go get the business and then they work the business, and then they get the business and they work the business, right? And they're on this revenue roller coaster because they're not always closing. The same thing happens with recruiting and hiring. They're thinking, you know what? All my trucks are filled. I'm going to pause recruiting and I'm not going to talk to anybody else. And then what happens? A guy calls in on Monday and says, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Well, now they're like, I got to fill that truck. That's a $50,000 a month truck. I've got to fill that truck. So they post an ad, and the first guy that calls are like, you're hired. And the belief is they've bought themselves some time. It might be a poor hire. The guy might have no clue what he's doing. He might end up costing you $60,000 in the first 90 days. But the belief is, well, yeah, but he made me 50, even though he cost me 60. So I only lost 10 instead of losing what that truck was worth sitting. And so they become desperate because they are reactive when it comes to hiring. And we have a saying here, always be recruiting. Always be recruiting. Because you never know when someone's going to get sick or hurt, or their spouse is they're going to come home and their spouse is going to be like, we're moving back cross country because I want to be closer to my parents. You never know when that person is going to leave. And so we cannot go through day to day thinking, oh, I'm good. I'm fully staffed. You are never fully staffed. Something will always happen.
Yeah, it's absolutely so true. And I mean, it's foundational. Again, bringing it back to the relevance of sales. Sales should never stop unless you're exiting the business, and then it's somebody else's job to sell.
Yeah.
So let's flip this a little bit in that if an owner is stuck right now, what's the first thing they need to fix?
So help me out. What do you mean by stuck? Let's give me an example.
Well, let's say that they feel they're in a desperate mode. Let's say that they feel like they need to increase sales, but they don't have the people. Maybe they feel like they're the only one doing the job. In other words, they have this aha moment. Okay, I need to do something.
Yeah.
What's the first thing they fix? And that's going to lead us into the segue of the core fit hiring system.
Yeah. So I heard this keynote speaker one time. And he was standing up and he was talking about marketing and attraction and all this other stuff. And he said he got to a point in his life, his late 20s, he was a millionaire already, and he wanted to get married. And he goes, well, I'm going to find a wife. And so what he did was he took a piece of paper and he wrote down 50 things he wanted in a wife. 50 things he wanted in a wife.
Holy buckets.
And he looked at that list and he goes, would someone with those 50 things want me? Because if the answer is no,
right,
I got work to do. Or I need a new list and I need to compromise on some things. But I remember this because there's so much value in this. Yeah. Because here's the thing. Everybody listening right now who's in that situation you're talking about, they can't let go. They don't trust people. They're overwhelmed. They've broken and they're like, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
If you are struggling to attract good people to your business, if you're struggling to attract people you trust into your business, you're probably not attractive to those kinds of people.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you absolutely must do is sit down and say, what kind of business do I want? What kind of people do I want on my team? And am I the kind of company that those people would want to work for? Because until you get clear on that, everything else is just throwing mud up against the wall to see what works.
Yeah, it makes sense. And just a little fun. I'm thinking about, I wonder if we forced couples before they got married to create 50 questions and answer 50 questions, how many people would not get married? Or maybe there's people listening right now that are going, crap, I wish I would have created those 50 questions before. Just kidding.
Well, you know what, though? It's funny you say that. We have a process. We have a process that we go through, and we call it the alignment offer. So when you make an offer, most people, what they do is they just say, hey, I want to pay you $65,000 a year. You're going to work 40 hours a week plus overtime, and here's your offer. And if you get a letter, great. But they make an offer. Well, here's what I found is that most of the time, if somebody doesn't work out in the first 90 days, it's because someone's expectations weren't met.
Right.
So what if instead of it just being a, here's the offer, we actually called it an alignment offer? And I give you a list of all the expectations I have, and you give me a list of all the expectations you have, and we compare notes. And we say, here was what I wanted in an employee. Here's what you wanted in an employer. Are we a fit for each other? Now, I know it sounds goofy, but I love bringing this back to the married couple. Imagine before you got married, you sat in the driveway, you said, hey, I got a list we're going to go through. All right, which way does the toilet paper go? Oh, it goes over? Perfect, check. How do you fold a bath towel? right?
Yeah.
How do you load the dishwasher? Which way should you squeeze a tube of toothpaste? Toilet lid up or down? Like, just think about all the things couples fight about in the first 90 days.
Yeah.
It's all this stupid little stuff. It's not
Or 30 years later, or 30 years later.
Or they continue to fight about for 30 years later. But imagine that you got all of those little things out of the way. It'd be so much easier to meet each other's expectations in the first 90 days of marriage.
Oh my gosh. So let's delve a little bit further into your system.
Okay.
Tell me about the 2 to 3 things. If I'm a business owner and I'm listening right now and I'm going, okay, I need the help. Tell me the 2 or 3 things that I can get super excited about in the system.
Yeah. So one of the things we do is we recommend that everybody be on an applicant tracking system. And what this is this is software that's very similar to a CRM, just like you would manage your customers' contacts. It connects to the job boards, and everybody that applies comes into a system that you can then easily grade them and determine who to move forward and who not to. There's nothing worse than somebody posting to a job board and saying, I need help and I'm recruiting. And they come in Monday morning and they've got 300 resumes in their inbox.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know what's going to happen. They're going to look at that and they're going to say, I'll get to it this weekend when I have time. And then they're going to start calling people on Saturday and no one's going to answer their phone. And then they're going to email them and no one's going to respond to their emails. And they're going to be like, see, nobody wants to work. Everybody's lazy. It's this generation. Nobody wants to work. But here's the thing. These people needed a job on Monday. You waited a week to call them. They got jobs elsewhere because there are people that move faster because they have a system. So it's the first thing you want to do, whether you're employee referrals or you're recruiting off the job boards or you're just grassrooting it out networking. You need that system to help you manage the pipeline of candidates coming in. That's the first thing. The second
before you go to the second thing, so people are listening to this going, okay, and if they have no idea, I mean, I certainly know, but if they have no idea, what would be the top 2 or 3 systems, processes, if you may, software that you can engage if I'm a small to medium-sized business owner and this is new to me?
So if you're looking for an applicant tracking system, we have, I've demoed almost 100 of them.
Okay.
There's one that works really good for the small business, and it's called discovered.ai. I'm just going to tell you. It's discovered.ai. Tell them Ryan sent you, and they'll put a whole bunch of templates in your system because we have a bunch of templates. And I was like, hey, as long as someone just says, hey, Ryan sent me, they'll dump all of our templates in. Email templates, text message templates, all of that. Discover.ai. And they do automated text messaging, automated emails. They're even launching a new automated recruiter that will pick up the phone. AI will pick up the phone and call the candidate for you and schedule the interview. It's amazing. And it's affordable. It's affordable. That is by far the best one out there. But the reality is when it comes to an applicant tracking system, the best one is the one that you use. Sure. That's it. You got to use it. But that one is by far our favorite. We don't even have partners with anybody else. Like, that's it. That's the one.
Well, okay, that's great. I wanted to pull that out, so I didn't mean to interrupt you. Yeah. So let's go to the second thing.
So the second thing. So we talked about phishing.
Right.
And we do this a lot. We go looking for people and then we're not quite clear if this is going to be a good person or not. But when you go fishing, and I know you're not a big fisherman, so I'll just answer it for you. But I asked audiences all the time, if you're going fishing, what is the first decision that you need to make? And by making it, all other decisions are easier and necessary. You probably heard that line before.
I don't know.
But most people say location. That's what they tell me. Usually it's location. And I said, well, that's a problem because if I go to a river and I'm looking to fish for something in the deep ocean, that's a problem. Right. So the first decision we have to make is what fish do I want to catch? Because once you know the fish, guess what? You know where they live. You know what time of day they bite. You know what kind of gear you need. You know what bait they're attracted to. You know everything. Let's get really clear on the type of fish. So the second thing you have to do once you have the ATS in place and you got a system for recruiting and managing that pipeline is get really clear on who you want. Really clear. And so we have a process, we call it the Core Fit Profile. And it's the 7 factors that you need to look at that help you identify who the right person is. Because there's 2 elements to hiring somebody. There's the, can they do the work? And then there's the, do they belong here? And we've all hired people that are great technicians, but nobody likes them. Nobody wants to work with them. And then we've hired the ones that everybody loves, but they're dumb as rocks and they can't figure out the work. Right?
Yeah.
So you have to look at these different things, and there's motivators. Like, you have to know what motivates these people, because if you can't provide it, that's a problem. So what kind of things can you motivate them with? What kind of behaviors do you want? What do your value system look like? Culturally, what do your value system look like? What are the things that are just table stakes they have to have, or they won't? Sit down, write that out. That will dictate what your job descriptions look like, what your job ads look like, what your interview guides look like. It's all part of it. In fact, one of the things I encourage everybody to do if you're struggling with the interview is think about all the reasons you fire people. We call those disqualifiers, right? It's really easy. What are the things that disqualified someone? Write them down. If you've got 10 things, there's your interview guide. Interview for those things.
Very simple.
Because people will tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
Tell me about a time that you did this. Oh, let me tell you about this time where I watched my friend do that. But if the disqualifier is, tell me about the last time you were late to something, because I don't like people who are late, right?
Do you think that, and I know we live in a world right now where getting references is kind of a challenge, right? Mm-hmm. And yet without high skill in interviewing or asking questions, people are really good at hiding things, right? So what skill do you think somebody who's going to hire, what's the best skill for them to develop in terms of the interview?
Active listening. That is the absolute best one.
Pretty simple one, right?
I mean, and I if I'm correct in this, if I recall from my sales coach, active listening is very important in the sales process, right? Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, it's actually being present, listening to what they have to say, not daydreaming, not being ready to respond, not being ready to interrupt, looking for them to take a breath. It's listening, it's engaging. And then when they do stop talking, ask them about what they just talked about. Don't just move on. Yeah. And I'll give you a quick story about that. We had a client, high volume hiring. They were hiring probably 60 people a month, high volume. And they had a recruiting department that was doing all the phone screens. So they had a 90% no-show rate. 90%. So 9 out of 10 people would schedule the interview and just not show up. And they could not figure out what the problem was. And so we pulled some of the call recordings and we listened to them. And wow, this person did not know how to actively listen. So we coached them a little bit on actively listening. And the one example that I remember was there was a young guy they were talking to, and they asked the question about, are you available to work overtime? And he said, I can work as much overtime as you want, except for Friday and Saturday nights. And she just moved on. And then they asked, is there anything that may conflict with him being available on a random schedule? And he says, well, I play in a band, and so I may not be available depending on when we book a gig. Crickets. And then the next question, he mentioned the band. And then the next question, he mentioned his gigs and his shows. I'm like, he just wants to tell somebody about the instrument he plays and the music he plays, and just actively listen. And so we coached her through this, and she started actively listening. She didn't get through as many questions, but within a couple of months, it almost flipped. It was like 9 out of 10 people showed up for the interviews because they go, wow, that person cared about me. That person took an interest in what I care about. And if there's one silver bullet in recruiting and keeping great people, it's care about the things they care about. You do that, the people stuff becomes so much easier. And I know it's hard to do it when you're an owner and you're caring about 27 different things. And are we going to make payroll, and insurance is due, and I've got this and I've got that, and I get it. It's hard to care. But if you care about the things they care about, all this stuff all becomes a lot easier.
By the way, that's awesome stuff. Wouldn't you agree that that piece right there that you just talked about is so important when it comes to how those employees act when the owner isn't around, how they interact with the customers, and how much money that actually costs the business owner because the employee is not being treated like they want to be treated, and therefore they're not treating the customers like they should be treated.
we do a lot of work in the home services space, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, that kind of remodeling. And I can't tell you how many times I've had an owner find out that this person was moonlighting, or that this person was doctoring the invoice, or not doing something legitimate, or telling the customer, hey, we only take cash, and then pocketing. Like, that's because they don't care about you. Like, they just don't care about you or the business or anything else. They're there. They found a loophole. They're exploiting it. I don't think it's always because they're just horrible people. I think it's just over time it chipped away, and they're just like, I don't care about this guy anymore. But it happens a lot, and more than I'd like. But it's not like it just one day the person woke up and said, I'm going to steal from this person.
Sure.
First it was a part that wasn't fully destroyed, and they're like, I'm going to go sell this on eBay. And then the next thing, it was a tool. And then they're like, this guy's not even paying attention.
I 100% agree with what you said in terms of they didn't wake up that morning. And yet there was a client of ours who was sharing with me a story that they hired somebody and they embezzled from them, and they embezzled from a sister business, if you may. And I said, well, wow. I said, generally people don't wake up and do that, right? Mm-hmm. And usually there's signs or what. And here they had done it to 3 other businesses prior to being hired at this business. Mm-hmm. And this business did not do a due diligence on them. And I just went, wow. Like, I mean, and we were talking 6 figures that was embezzled. Wow. And they didn't have insurance to cover, employee theft. And so, yeah.
It just keeps going worse and worse. But, that reminds me, you asked the question about references and reference checks earlier, and we kind of got off topic, but that's why that stuff is so hard these days.
Yeah.
I found that, I mean, we saw that. We saw somebody embezzle 6 figures. They found out about it. And I asked him why they didn't turn her in. And he goes, because I don't have time. She's fired. Like, it's not like I'm getting my money back. And I was like, no, that needs to be on her record. So the next company that does the background check finds it. But a lot of times entrepreneurs, they just get to the point where there's like, I'm glad that stage of my life is over. I don't want to get wrapped up in whatever it is that's going to wrap me up. So I just won't even report it. And so when we look at references and background checks, and I'm not a lawyer or a compliance expert, I think background checks are absolutely critical, especially if you're customer facing. But I think when it comes to references, if you want to do references, you do not let the employee choose the references, because they're going to give you their best friends. They're going to give you the people that are willing to lie for them. They're going to give you that. What you do, and this is what I recommend, and this is actually from a book, Top Grading, if you've ever read that one.
Yep.
And he talks about, you go through the list of employers and you say, I want to speak to your manager from that job. I want to speak to your manager from that job. And then it's on the employee to put that together. Now, in the trades, frontline workers, hourly workers, that's a little bit harder. Top Grading was more executive level. They were talking about the white collar jobs, but you can still do it. Right. And then here's another thing. I mentioned the ATS earlier, and I forgot to mention this. One of the things that they've done is they've integrated an integrity assessment inside the ATS. So one of the ways you can evaluate your new hire, your candidates coming in, is they can take an assessment. It takes about 8 minutes to take, and it will tell you the likelihood that they'll steal, lie, cause workplace violence, or do drugs and alcohol on the job. And it's 94% accurate. It's insane.
Wow.
So if you're not going to do references, at least do that.
At least do that. Yeah, at least do that. Okay, so I want to, we're going to get to the 2-minute drill here in just a second, which is in our theme of the Owner's Profit Playbook. But I want to ask you this question, because we touched on this a little bit earlier before we started the podcast. So with the, what's the word I want to use? With the emergence of AI, and holy Hannah, we could probably have like hours of podcast on that in business. I heard recently that there's a huge percentage, like 90+ % of applications of resumes coming in on the big boards, if you may, that are AI created.
Yeah.
Tell me your thoughts on that.
So there's 3 types of resumes out there, and AI is the most recent one to show up. But the first one is a resume written by someone who doesn't know how to write a resume. Okay. The second one is a resume written.
What do you think that is as a percent of resumes that people get? I know it's going to vary company.
Yeah, I mean, just keep in mind, I do a lot of work in the front line, in the trades. We see a lot of resumes. Right. I would say in that case, it's probably 70% are written by people who don't know how to write resumes. It's the bare minimum. When you sign up for an account in Indeed and you want to apply for jobs, it says, tell me about your last 3 jobs. They put the bare minimum in and they're done.
Yeah.
The second group is they're written by professional resume writers. We see this more in the middle management, executive levels, right? They're embellished. They're like, oh, so tell me about this time. Oh, we'll actually say it was 200% instead of 20, right? And then there's a third one, which is AI, which is all absolute garbage, right? AI is absolute garbage. All of it's made up. So here's the thing to remember. Written by people who don't know how to write them, written by professional resume writers, and written by AI. They're all garbage. All of them. Right. I don't believe there is such a thing as a good resume out there.
Yeah.
I think that anybody, a lot of jobs we post, we don't even require resumes because I know I'm just going to get garbage. I would rather do a better interview process and really learn from the person. Make them show me they can do the work, not just tell me they can do the work.
So what's the number one? So with that in mind, I mean, somebody hears that and they go, oh my gosh, that's interesting, Ryan. So what's the I mean, you get 300 no resumes or 300 applicants. What's the number one thing you use as the filter?
Send them the integrity assessment. If you don't respond within 3 days, guess what? See ya.
I love that. I love that.
That's so hard. Another one that we do is video interviewing, one-way video interviews. So you get a link, you click a link and it asks you a question, you hit record and you record on your phone.
What a great idea.
You don't do that. I mean, what are the odds? If you can't do that, what are the odds you're going to follow through and actually be a good employee?
Yeah, probably slim and none.
And out of the 300, you might have 50 that do the video interview. Maybe. Well, guess what? 250 you don't even talk to. You don't even think about it.
Right.
You know, and then out of that 50, you might have 30 that do the integrity assessment. And out of that 30, maybe only 20 pass. So you went from 300 to 20. You did nothing but set up some automations in the system.
I love it. I love it. Okay, we're going to shift gears. 2-minute drill. Short questions, straight answers, no overthinking.
Got it.
Ready.
Go.
Okay, here we go. Hire fast or hire right? Which one is costing owners more?
Oh, hire fast is costing them more.
Biggest myth about finding good people in the trades?
That there aren't enough people out there.
Is that a myth or are there really not enough people coming into the trades?
There's not enough people coming in, but there are enough people out there.
So I know this is the 2-minute drill, but I want to just ask you real quick on that one. What are you seeing for business owners that are getting creative on not always just thinking about hiring for today, but actually building up a pipeline? Like, give me the one thing you've seen that is just blowing you away about that. Anything?
Companies that understand that people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. And they become very focused on putting their people into their recruiting.
Okay. Cultural fit or skill set? Which one matters more?
Culture fit.
One thing every job posting is missing.
Who their leader is. What's it like to work there?
I like that. People quit we know this. People quit jobs or people quit leaders. Which one is it? You just said.
People quit leaders?
The questions are just come out of the blue. Employer of choice, built or bought?
Built.
And then one action every owner should take this week to improve their hiring.
Identify who the right person is for their team.
So I want you to think, Ryan, I'm going to lead up to something here. I want to get a final thought from you, but I'm just going to share. We already know hiring is an HR. It's a strategy. It's leverage. The difference between a business that scales and one that survives. What's the difference?
The owner surrounds themselves with people better than them.
So the owners who treat their hiring process like a marketing system, who become the employer choice of market, what's something that doesn't depend upon them showing up every day?
It's a good one. You know, I think one of the things that most owners can get from their team to help them with this is to realize that if you're a team of 20, you've got 20 recruiters on your team. It's not all on you.
you really have 20 or do you maybe have 18 because there's 2 that are bad? No, I'm just kidding.
It's a great point.
2 that you should have gotten rid of. So they're recruiting. They're actually deflecting, reflecting people.
No one has ever told me, dang it, I fired that guy too soon. I should have kept him longer. Never heard that.
We could have conversations around that. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
So, Ryan, I'd love a final thought from you. But before we get that, where can owners find you, find the book in Core Matters?
Yeah. CoreMatters.com is where they can find out all the information about our program, support. We've got tons of free training and tools on that website. If you want to get a hold of me, I'm very active on LinkedIn. Easiest way to connect with me. And then if they want the book, it's anywhere. Amazon, audiobooks. I actually recorded the audiobook. That was a challenge for me. But so you get to listen to me for 6 hours, read the audiobook, but it's available anywhere audiobooks or anywhere you listen to your audiobooks. You can check it out. And then one thing I do want to share real quick is we've got a new software program that's coming out called FieldCon. And if you manage a remote workforce because they're out in the field, performance evaluations are one of the biggest challenges we see owners deal with. So we built a software tool that makes all the decisions for you, builds the review agenda, builds all of the questions in, and it takes the review process down to minutes from the owner to get those reviews done. So I encourage you to check that out. We'll be going live with that in a couple of weeks, probably by the time this airs.
Well, absolutely. And so we'll put that in the show notes as well. We'll make sure we include that. So, Ryan, first of all, thank you so much. What great information. Obviously, companies are built not by an individual, by a team, and hiring the right people around that team is so important. So this has been the Owner's Profit Playbook. And as always, what you don't know is costing you commas and zeros. The real dollar that you're losing is the cost of a bad hire, hires, or maybe your entire team is the bad hire. So if you need any help on that, please reach out to Ryan, or certainly you can get to Ryan through us at the Mancuso Consulting Group and MancusoCG.com. Thanks so much, Ryan. We appreciate you being with us today. And we also thank Rise25 for coordinating this, our team that works on our podcast. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
If you're serious about building a more profitable business, make sure you subscribe to the Owner's Profit Playbook so you never miss an episode. And if you know another business owner who could benefit from this conversation, share it with them. To learn more about how we help business owners uncover hidden opportunities and strengthen their financial strategy, visit MancusoCG.com. And remember, what you don't know is costing you commas and zeros.